So, Danessa Myricks and Pat McGrath are both celebrating their 10-year anniversaries this year, which I did not realize until I saw some of the marketing for their latest palette offerings this holiday season. So, we have the Pat McGrath Labs Gilded Nirvana Mega Eyeshadow Palette, and from Danessa Myricks, we have the Lightwork 7 palette. So obviously I have applied one palette to one eye and one on the other. I'm not going to pretend that you can't tell which is which. But I did do detailed swatch comparisons of these palettes as well as the demos of these two looks that I'm wearing. So the goal of this video is to help you decide which, if any, of these palettes you would like to purchase. And because these palettes are both from iconic makeup artists who are both celebrating the 10-year anniversary of their brands, I thought it would just be really interesting to compare them to one another, especially as people are often talking about Danessa Myricks as the person carrying the torch of Pat McGrath forward into the future. So I know everyone has talked a lot about the current state of Pat McGrath Labs and her involvement with Louis Vuitton. So I just wanted to put these two palettes head to head to kind of get a sense of whether that is in fact true. So I will have timestamps down below if you'd like to jump ahead to a particular portion. And without any further ado, let's get into the swatches. All right, so let's get into the swatches. So I have both the palettes here in front of you just because I wanted you to be able to visualize the difference in size between these two before I really start getting into the swatches. So this little Pat McGrath palette is definitely dwarfed by the Danessa Myricks. So I'm going to put this to the side for now, and we can focus on this little guy. So this is the Gilded Nirvana Mega Eyeshadow Palette. I think we have to take mega with a grain of salt here. It retails for $72, and it is new for this holiday and a limited edition. So they describe it as a limited edition jewel box of 12 eyeshadows in molten metallics, plush velvets, radiant sparkles, and multi-dimensional chromes. When I first got this, I did feel like I was opening a little jewel box. I don't know if I just kind of internalized some of the marketing or what, but yeah, it does definitely have that kind of quality to it. I do appreciate this plastic packaging more than the cardboard packaging we got in previous years. So the Pat McGrath website says, revel in a jewel box, so they're really pushing that, a visionary color, igniting the eyes with iconic pigments, luxurious luminosity, and textures that glide on like liquid starlight. This compact golden palette holds 12 electrifying shades, 10 never-before-seen exclusives, and 2 couture classics, spanning molten metallics, astral sparkles, radiant shimmers, and rich velvets. An homage to Pat's iconic Gold 001, Gilded Nirvana transforms a decade of groundbreaking artistry at Pat McGrath Labs into a limited edition object of obsession, exquisite decadence meant to be possessed. And then there's also a quote from Pat McGrath that says, a jewel box treasure of transcendent artistry where decadent depths collide with futuristic fantasy. Each shade behaves like liquid starlight, so they're kind of repeating that, blending effortlessly yet locking down with runway-worthy intensity. Discover a universe of looks in one gilded compact. So, before I move on, just a couple things to call out there. So they're saying there's 2 couture classics in this palette. Those are actually repeated shades from 2 of her previous holiday palettes, which to me doesn't really scream classic. So the shade, there's no real good way to do this, Noir Nebula, which is this one in the corner here. This was in the Bijou Brilliance eyeshadow palette. And then Mauve Mystique is this one, was in the Bijou Brilliance eyeshadow palette Bordeaux Bliss. So I think 2 of those 5 pans from that collection. So the 2 kind of in the corner here. And then the other thing they reference is the Gold 001, which was Pat McGrath's first product. I talked about it in my kind of rise and fall of Pat McGrath video. They have re-released that as kind of a 10-year anniversary re-release. So you can get your hands on the kind of recreation of that specific product if you want to. It's basically just a gold pigment with like a little spatula and a smaller bottle of like the Maron mixing liquid. I was kind of tempted to pick it up as a collector. Maybe I will during the Sephora sale now that it's at Sephora. But realistically, it's probably not something I'm going to get too much use out of. So you get 12 shades here, and they are each 0.023 ounces. So I just wanted to compare a mothership for the size comparison. This one, I think the total weight is 19.5 grams, and this is 8 grams. So less than half of a mothership, if you want to look at it that way. And the pan size for these shadows is obviously going to be less because these only contain 10. This one is Sunlit Seduction, by the way. So just for the kind of visual comparison there. So yeah, this one is quite small. And these shadows do contain talc, 12-month shelf life, made in Italy. These ones had an 18-month shelf life and they were also made in Italy. So I don't know why there's a difference there. Okay, so I do want to film these by finish. Apparently we have 5 different finishes here. So I'll swatch those in order of finish. And this is going to be a challenge with the names being on the back here. Okay, so the first category is the metallic dimension finish. So we have Moonlit Mauve is this one. Aquamarine Allure, which is this one down at the bottom, like so. And then Platinum Bronze, which is the one next to it. Okay, so Moonlit Mauve is a mauve with platinum pearl. Aquamarine Allure is an aquamarine with teal pearl. And Platinum Bronze is a neutral bronze with gold pearl. They say, this formula boasts chromatic reflection and sparkling dimension, delivering high shine metallic radiance. Apply with a fingertip or dense brush to adorn lids, inner corners, or lash lines with luminous sparkle. And then it says, sweep across the center of the lids, brow bones, or inner corners for an eye brightening glow. So I don't know if there's really anything super special about how you use them, but those are the metallic dimension shades. Okay, next up we have the Astral Metallic Finish shades. So we have Cosmic Orchid, like so. Cherry Noir is this one up here. That one has a really pretty duochrome to it. Bronze Aura, which is this one right here. And Golden Lurex. So that one is going to be the one in the corner here. So those are the 4 Astral Metallic Finish shades. So Cosmic Orchid is a violet with pink pearl. Cherry Noir is a deep burgundy with rose pearl. Bronze Aura is a golden bronze with gold pearl. And Golden Lurex is a chartreuse bronze with gold pearl. And for those 4 shades, it says this luxurious formula features an intense glittering finish that delivers a flash of brilliant metallic color. Enhance your eyes with sophisticated luminosity, ideal for looks ranging from timeless elegance to daring artistry. Use a fluffy brush for a diffused wash, or your fingertip for intensified impact. Okay, so the only shade in the next finish, which is Tech Noir metallic finish. That one is Noir Nebula, so this is one of the repeats. And that one looks like so. So this one is a deep noir navy with iridescent pearl. So it says this creamy, smooth formula is infused with iridescent noir pearls to add dramatic depth and dimension. Create mesmerizing, multi-dimensional effects with this signature sparkling metallic finish. So that is what that one looks like. Okay, so next up we get the Velvet Matte Finish. So they say that Nude Nirvana, which is this one, got some on the plastic there. Nude Nirvana and Mauve Mystique, which you could argue isn't really a matte, but those two. The Soft Touch Matte formula delivers buildable color and seamless blendability for shaping and defining the eyes. Use a small blending brush to sculpt the socket, define the lash lines, or enhance structure with precision. So this one is, I don't think they had a description for Nude Nirvana for whatever reason, but Mauve Mystique is a plum with a gold pearl. So whether you consider that matte or not is up to you. And then the final two shades here, we have Luminous Sparkle Finish. So Pink Venus and Liquid Sky. So the two up here. I have to say, these all feel very similar. They all have that kind of thicker feeling to them. So this one says the sensorial formula delivers a heightened sparkle effect, ideal for illuminating the eyes with dazzling luminosity. Elevate your eye look with a radiant chromatic sheen for a captivating finish. So Pink Venus is a pale pink with golden pearl. Liquid Sky is an iridescent blue sparkle. So, I mean, there's definitely, I think, differences in like opacity. Try to get them all in frame there. But I don't know that I detect like 5 distinct finishes. So those are the Pat McGrath swatches. I have to say the compact itself is really beautiful. Has my fingerprints on it. It does feel like something that, you know, a Russian czar would have had or something like that.
For me? Is it a jewelry box?
And they have a magnet closure and a mirror, obviously. So I'm going to wash this off and then we will open up the Danessa Myricks palette. Okay, so if the Pat McGrath palette was like a little jewel box, this Danessa Myricks Beauty Lightwork Volume 7 palette feels like breaking into Fort Knox or the Louvre, but as we saw, that was somewhat attainable. Okay, so I did purchase from the Danessa Myricks website. I think it shipped in a bubble mailer, but there was kind of additional bubble wrap around this actual palette. And then you pull this out. I don't want to belabor this too much because lots of people have already talked about the packaging, but I've said how much I kind of admire the ingenuity that went into this before. So I just wanted to let you know what I think now that it's kind of actually in my hands. So there we go. So before I get into this, this does retail for $128, which ironically is the same price as a mothership like I showed you. And again, this has 19.5 grams over 10 shadows. This has 21.6 grams over 18 shadows. You are getting both more shades and more product. Each individual shade might be smaller. This one has a 12-month shelf life, which is the same as the Pat McGrath. And this one was actually made in China, which I thought was really interesting. So that's kind of the basic information there. I believe this one, the Danessa Myricks one is talc free, but if that is important to you, make sure to double check. So I still have the foam on the inside here. And because I did order from Danessa Myricks on the launch day, they did include this little kind of silicone applicator. It's called a chrome amplifier. I think you can buy this just on its own if you wanted to. So I think the idea is it's just like a little silicone Q-tip kind of thing, or those like traditional foam eyeshadow applicators, but made out of silicone. And then I believe this side is magnetic. So, oh, you can see, yeah, it does lift that out. And I just want to be careful how I do this. Yeah, so we'll pick up the shadows as well. So I don't know, I thought that was a kind of cool little tool. Obviously you don't need one that's branded Danessa Myricks. You can get things like, you can get something like this from Amazon, telescopes for whatever reason. And I think, yeah, it keeps wanting to pick up the full thing. But yeah, that one will work as well. And I think you can just buy silicone applicators by themselves as well. There's also a little divot in between shades, so I think you could probably take a spatula, if that helps safer to you, although, I don't know, the magnet might be better. So that's all of the shades together. And as I said, I'm going to be swatching this by finish. So as far as inspiration, they say, this is the past, present, and future of Danessa Myricks beauty captured in one palette. Lightwork 7 celebrates 10 years of artistry, community, and innovation with iconic pigments reimagined for today. This collection blends grounded beauty with surrealist color and texture. Discover 10 versatile finishes, infinitely wearable shades, and the magic of transformation all in one magnetic, stackable, collectible palette. It's made to mix, made to move, made for everyone, and is Danessa Myricks Beauty's first lightweight palette with mattes to ground, define, and shape your looks. So this is kind of an all-in-one palette. They say that you can use it, multi-use powders for eyes, face, and lips. There are some shades they say that you should not use on the lips. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 10, like over half the palette, I think. Just be aware of that. They say that this is a finger forward, brush optional, all over face palette designed for effortless application. Each section delivers a unique color story with base tones and shades that range from subtle sparkle to bold shine. And they say simply swipe any shade over your eyelid for instant wearable magic. All right, so the first category here that we have is Hypershine Chrome Metallics. And they have the shade names on the back. Actually, let's do this. So as you've seen before, we have these mini palettes that do remove. They do list shade names on the back of this larger palette. They do also have them on the back here, which is really nice. And then, where's my tool? Yeah, and then they also list them on the back here. So that is something I always talk about really wanting. So I do appreciate that they did that. I don't know if they have the formula, but they have the shade. So, okay. So I guess if you completely depotted them, you could put Humpty Dumpty together again. I am going to just reference the listing online so I have the right orientation of everything. Okay. So I don't know if that's what I had before, but I did take everything out to kind of play around with it. Okay, so Spellbound is this shade here. This is a Hypershine Chrome Metallic. And this is a magenta with emerald green shift. Yeah, you can see as I swatch that. Hopefully you can kind of see the the shift. Where's the little mirror? So there was a little sticker on the mirror, which I'm going to remove. Okay, sometimes it's just difficult to kind of get the initial thing off, but yeah, hopefully you can see that. You can probably see how dirty my desk is as well. Yeah, so really cool shade. So I'm just gonna, oops. I do kind of dig into the shades a bit to get a good swatch. Yeah, unfortunately it just doesn't really capture as well. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so next up we have Hypershine Metallic. So the same as this one, but this one is a Hypershine Chrome metallic. So the Hypershine Metallics are Enchanted. I don't think I need to dig in quite so much. Enchanted, Mother's Love, which I know is this bright blue. Danessa talked about how this was inspired by a blue eyeliner that her mother helped buy her. Star Power is the one right here. So those are the next three. So Enchanted, again, I don't have a shade description for this one. I don't know, Sephora just dropped the ball. Mother's Love is a royal blue metallic, and Star Power is a molten silver with a dusty blue shift. I don't see a super strong shift, but these feel super kind of creamy, full impact shine. I might have to swatch the mattes separately. I think that might be the most logical way to break these up. I don't think I'll be able to get maybe all 18 on my arm. Next up we have a Velvet Metallic. So this is Northern Lights. So this one up here. So this is a smoky platinum. A little bit more sheer texture. Still really pretty. We have a Velvet Chrome next, which is the shade Mother Earth down here. This one has a shift to it as well. So this one is a forest green with an eggplant shift. So hopefully you kind of see that. Okay, so next up we have a Foil Flake Chrome, which is the shade Open Heart. So this one down here. Yeah, you can tell which one's kind of flake up a bit more. That's really pretty. So Open Heart is an electric purple with a smoky green shift. So again, I'm doing the best I can to show you. And some of these, like, I think you can smooth them out, like they are flaky, but like that blue, for example, is kind of chunking up. Unsolicited Eyevice, I watched his video and I think he recommended, especially if you're applying to the eyes, if you have a flakier shade like that, you can kind of like rub it in between your fingers to kind of smooth it out before you apply it. Or I guess you could do that to the back of your hand as well. So I thought that was a nice tip. I wanted to mention that. So next up we have a Foil Flake Metallic. This was a Foil Flake Chrome. So that shade Guiding Light is going to be this one. Again, yeah, it's definitely kind of that flakier texture, but really, really beautiful. So this is an antique pewter pink metallic. Okay, so we have Elastin Multichromes next. So Golden Child is this one up here. This is a much like smoother, thinner formula. This one is an opal white with gold to green shift. I mean, what shades aren't shifts really? But yeah, that one. So you can kind of see how much thinner that one is. So, you know, there are definitely some differences in the formulas. I don't know if we necessarily need 10 different ones to get that point across. The other one here is Love Potion, which is this one up here. So yeah, these do feel quite similar. So Love Potion is a white rose quartz with gold shift. So yeah, there's definitely a different kind of reflect to those. They look kind of similar in the pan. Okay, so for the next one, it's Dreamer, which is a chrome topper. And that one is over here. I think I got some blue on my finger there. Yeah, so pretty. It does feel thicker, but it's still, I think, like a thinner effect. More sheer. All right, so I think I can squeeze 2 more on here and then we'll do the matte separately. These are both Elastin Sheer Metallics. So we had Elastin Multichromes, which were these guys, and these next ones are Elastin Sheer Metallics. So Warmth, this one also feels thinner. Warmth and Wish. So Wish is going to be this one here. So Warmth is a metallic copper with gold to pink shift. Wish is an iced pink metallic. And that one has a little bit more oomph to it, I think. Okay, so that is all the metallic swatches at a glance. All right, so for what it's worth, I think for the most part those did wash off more easily than the Pat McGrath shades. I can still see some little sparkles on there. I don't know what that was. The Pat McGrath shadows I did remove, or I took some waterproof makeup remover to remove just some kind of faint marks from like where I swatched them. I didn't do that with this round. So the actual color I think removed pretty well. All right, and then finally for the soft touch mattes, we have Sand. These do feel nice and silky. Booted, like so. Magic Moon, just this gray. So I'm just going to do those for now. So Sand is a neutral sandy beige matte. Rooted, did I say, I think I said booted, it's Rooted. Rooted is a baked terracotta brown matte. Magic Moon is a concrete gray matte. I think this gray shade might have benefited maybe from being more of that kind of cream to powder formula. I think all the mattes are the same. But up next here we have the other brown and the black. Okay, so Grounded, trying to make sure my fingers are as clean as possible here. So Grounded is the black, very opaque, and Toasted is this other brown. So the black, Grounded is a midnight black matte, and Toasted is a toasted mauve matte. Very, very bold. I do like the tone of that matte. Those are probably going to be more of my kind of go-to shades. So I think the gray shade is the one that gave me the most trouble. So yeah, I think maybe we could have sacrificed one of the kind of shiny metallic finishes for a couple different like matte styles, but in any case. So while I have these mattes on my hand, I think I'm gonna have to go wash this. Okay, so I tried to just wash my hands to get kind of a clean start without messing up these mattes. So if you're curious what these look like in the pan side by side, I have to say I'm a little, I don't know if concerned is the right word. I think the magnets maybe could be stronger, especially when it comes to this component. Just for my own peace of mind, I would appreciate that. I think I saw Chelsea, Glam Girl Chelsea, I think is her channel name. I think she was gifted this in PR from either Beautylish or Danessa Myricks, and one of her shades did come broken. So just be aware of that, even though, you know, the package is, or the palette is wrapped so well. I think just by nature of the shadows that can happen, so just be careful. But yeah, I'm going to quickly just swatch the mattes, quote unquote mattes, in this palette, just so you can kind of get a sense of those. I don't think there's going to be any like obvious similarities. So those are the two Pat McGrath. Those are the Danessa Myricks. I think for me, in the way that I build eye looks, I'm going to end up coming out with the kind of mauve-y color story or look most of the time, just by virtue of the mattes that are available. This one, I think having the browns are a little bit more neutral. I think that gives a little bit more flexibility. So I think I do prefer the mattes in the Danessa Myricks as a general matter. Okay, so I think those mattes did remove pretty cleanly. Wash those off. So I just want to kind of, I guess, demo some of these similar colors across the two palettes, just so you can kind of get a sense if you are looking for like a blue look, for example. So let's go ahead and start with the blues. So I think there's roughly 3 shades that I would put in this category. So these 3 are the kind of blue shades from Pat McGrath. I'm just going to kind of do full-on swatches. I was debating whether to like do half my arm, but so those are the blues. We have 2 kind of true blues in this palette. Might just swatch this one just for fun, but so I think the finish across all of the Pat McGrath shades is more consistent, if that's what you want. Let's take a look at the purple kind of mauve tone. So we have more of a true purple in this palette. We don't really have true purples in the Danessa Myricks. So I'm going to skip the true matte, but maybe I'll just swatch these 3 and then I'll do kind of the more neutral. So okay, so I think I want to swatch, do these 3. So those are the kind of, and for some reason that shade does, I don't know if it's the reflect or what, but it does go more purple. So let me swatch this one. So the bottom one is Pat McGrath. The next three are Danessa. And the three after that are Pat McGrath again. So yeah, if you want to go more into the like royal purple, magentas, that is pretty purple. Okay, so those are the more colorful shades there, all at a glance. So I'm going to wash this off and then we'll come back for kind of the more neutral shades. And just to show you here before I try to remove it, I don't know if you can see, there's like a couple faint marks on my arm. I think those are some of the Pat McGrath shadows. I don't know why they kind of leave that ghost of themselves. So I'll just start with that. So for the more kind of neutral shadows, I know I want to compare like this one and this one. This one is obviously a much thicker formula. And then for more of a kind of true gold, bronze, and this one. Those are kind of similar color-wise, but again, the Pat McGrath is a thicker shadow. That didn't swatch very well. And then I'll look at some of these kind of more champagne type shades. So let's look at this one and this one. Again, this is very flaky. Trying to figure out if there's any more kind of obvious comparisons that I need to do. Sometimes with these shifts, it's a little hard to remember. So I think that's it. I think that gives you a good idea of the possible color comparisons, but if you feel like I missed anything, just let me know and I can throw something up either on Instagram or the YouTube community post, one of those. So yeah, let me know what you think of these shadows and which formula you think you prefer. So I think that is it for now for the swatch portion. So let's get into the demo. All right, so let's try out these palettes. So I think I'm just going to do one eye at a time. So I'll do the Pat McGrath palette on one eye and the Danessa Myricks on the other. And I did get my PR package from Dieux, and they did send over their Reviving Eye Gel and their Forever Eye Mask. So I think the idea here is that you can use these silicone eye masks over, I guess, any kind of eye cream or eye gel type product to help seal in the moisture. So because I'm doing my eyes first, because I'm expecting some level of fallout here with all these types of shades, I thought I would try out this. So this is in a metal tube, so I think this is fully recyclable, which is really nice, or at least part of it is aluminum, part of it's plastic. So I think the idea here, that's what it looks like. They did send these products to me, but I don't have to talk about them, just so you know. So I'm going to apply that underneath the eye. I did already do my skincare. I think you're supposed to go over the eyelid as well. Try to just have a light layer on the eyelid so that I don't inadvertently kind of cause creasing. This is pretty thin and lightweight, so I wouldn't worry too much about makeup going on over top. And then from there, I have the eye masks. So these come in a little metal tin, and that is what they look like. So I think they used to have some angel wing ones, which were really cute. These have their logo. They're very thin as well. Do you see that? They're kind of the same as those like gel ones. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to use these or the Ulta ones because I was worried that these would kind of slip down my face, but they are actually pretty adherent. I guess I'll say that. So go like so. And I imagine that you just wash these in some warm water. Yeah, it says wash with mild soap and warm water, dry and put back in the tin and then store in a cool, dark place. Okay, so I'm going to use my Hourglass Veil Eye Primer. I know that Pat McGrath has an eyeshadow primer. I don't know that Danessa ever came out with a dedicated one. So, might as well apply the primer to both sides. All right, so then I'm going to take just a basic powder here. So I'm going to use the Kosas and set the primer on both sides. Okay, so now for the fun part. Apply some of my Experiment lip balm. I'm getting ready here. So for the Pat McGrath palette, we only have one kind of two matte shades. These are all freshly washed brushes, by the way. So I did get a second defined crease from Beautylish. One of these might be a tad bit fluffier just because I've had it longer, but I did wash both of them. I have a, let's see, I think these are both mini boosters from Sonia G. This is in their Kayaki line, so they have shorter handles. And I have two of the flat definer now as well. Again, one is in the Kayaki line. And I have the Danessa Myricks silicone applicator out here as well. Okay, so taking one of the classic crease shades and going into that matte. So let's see how this does. So of course I'm going to be a little bit, I guess, limited by the shades that each palette offers, but I think I'm going for kind of a purple eye for both. So put that down and I'll use one of these mini boosters and go into that shade there, which they say is kind of a matte. I have to say, I wish these handles were longer. I think they're supposed to be kind of travel friendly. I don't really know why people feel like they need shorter bristles or shorter handles for travel. So taking the classic crease and going into that shade again and blending out. Yeah, so I think is it Amelia's Beauty Chat said something about, you know, her hands don't shrink when she travels. And I mean, that extra inch or two is not really going to take up much space, I don't think. So I have a lot of clean Rephr 28 brushes here. So I'm going to take one of those, and I guess I'm going to start off with that bright purple shade. And I'll start by kind of applying it all over. So kind of making this, I guess, the dominant shade. And then I'll adjust as necessary by layering things. I feel like I'm getting decently good adherence to the lid. Okay, so that's, I guess, 3 shades now. I kind of want to take some of that shade. I think that might be kind of a duochrome. I'm just going to flip the brush over, and I just want to see what happens if I try to, I don't know, add something to the outer corner. I think that added a little bit of dimension. Actually, I think I might like that kind of layered over the whole thing. Why not? Okay. And then, again, I'm trying to keep in mind the shades that are similar. I'm going to take my finger and go into that shade, the light pink, and see what that does. I don't know that that's like especially stunning. I'm going to take this Rephr 26 brush, which is the kind of large pencil, and go into that shade as well. This is a fairly easy palette to hold. I'll give them that. So I think I might leave it there for a minute and then maybe come back as necessary to adjust. But as far as going for kind of a straight up purple look, you know, I don't have a lot of options. So those are kind of the mauve-y tones, pink mauve. So they're pretty, but given what we have to work with in terms of mattes, I just don't know that it's really a standalone palette. I guess you could have had the same critique of like Danessa Myricks last year. All right, so let's try some Danessa. I just spilled water everywhere trying to dampen my makeup eraser with a water bottle, and it didn't seem to absorb any. Okay, so I think I'm just gonna go with like the inner, well, I might just try and stick with the middle palette for the most part. And because this is not a palette I can really hold by itself, I'm just going to take that out. I might go into some of the other mattes, so we'll see. So taking that matte shade there and my other classic crease here. So I'll dip into that. Actually, I take that back. I will probably use that shade, but I'm going to take that matte right there. It's a little bit lighter, and start to kind of build up the crease there. I went in pretty lightly at first. These are buildable, which is good. And then taking a mini booster and going into that shade, that brown shade. I did swatch the 6-pan that she released in the spring again when I went into store to pick up my sale order. And I still kind of feel like, although it's really pretty, I just probably wouldn't get a lot of use out of it. Those like mint turquoise and pink shades just aren't ones that I would probably want to wear all that often. So I think I'm going to skip it. But if she does release similar palettes in the future, I will definitely at least check them out. Okay, so for the colorful aspect, I'm going to start with a Rephr 28, a clean one, and then I'll probably use the silicone applicator as well. So this is where it gets a little trippy because these are duochromes, but I'm going to start with that shade, kind of in the outer corner. I feel like the equivalent Pat McGrath duochrome I applied on top, but I just want to see how we do here. So that applied pretty well with the brush. It's not too far off color-wise. I was prepared for a brush not to work, but I guess we'll see how this one does. So the one down here that is a little bit more purple, it's still a duochrome, I believe, so let's see how we do with a brush. And yeah, I think this one, it's not going to pick up quite as well on a brush. It's just that kind of flaky texture. So yeah, that doesn't really give much. Let's try this guy to see how this does. So, ooh. And this still, I feel like I'm just kind of moving, well, there I got some, I guess, to pick up. I felt like I was dropping flakes on my pants here. It did feel like I was kind of moving the product around more than picking it up. Like even if I do that on my hand, it doesn't really adhere to this little silicone guy. So your best bet for this shade is probably your finger. And this again is where I think I said unsolicited advice recommended just kind of warming it between your fingers. Or I guess I can try and pick it up from my hand. So we'll see if this gives good payoff this way. It's still a bit challenging if I'm being honest. So that's quite a bit more. Okay. So I think this is where you really just need to get in there and not worry too much about getting messy and just clean up as needed. So I'm going to take, I guess, this rougher brush again and see if I can just blend this out. So I feel like I could maybe clean it up a little bit on the inner corner. So if I took one of these Q-tip, and this is dry. Of course, this would be more effective if I use some micellar water. You just kind of have to decide what shape you want for your eye look, I guess. And this eye, for whatever reason, this kind of inner part of my eye just kind of covers more of the eye duct on this side than on this side. So that kind of affects the shape as well. All right, so I'm going to take this silicone applicator and see if it works a little bit better with a different shade. So I'm just kind of cleaning most of that off with a makeup eraser and then going into that shade there. Ooh, that really, you can see, almost became like liquid. So let's see if I can just apply. That's pretty. All right, so yeah, I think that little tool, if you have it or if you choose to pick it up, it's going to work with some formulas more than others. So I'm just trying to kind of blend this so it's a little bit more gradual, I guess. So obviously we got a little bit more carried away with the Danessa Myricks side. I'm going to try and make the Pat McGrath side a little bit higher just to kind of match the shape a little bit. So taking the brush I used earlier, this Rougher 28, and going into that purple shade again. And again, I just want it to be as kind of similar an effect as possible. And then I'm going to take, I guess, that pink shade again, same brush here, and just go into that and kind of pull it up a little bit. Okay. I think that's a fair representation of both palettes. And this, by the way, does not want to come off my hand very easily with the makeup eraser. Let's see that. All right, so let me go wash my hands and I'll come back and do the rest of my makeup. All right, so just taking my makeup eraser again and trying to just clean up a little bit. It wasn't terrible in terms of fallout, actually. I think, you know, I did get some shadow on those eye masks, but that kind of happens with eye masks as you're blending in a lot of cases, so I could probably stand to still clean up a little bit with some micellar water, but... All right, so I'm gonna hop off camera and finish my makeup, and then I'll be back to give you my final thoughts. All right, so most of the rest of the makeup is done, but I thought I would hop back on camera to kind of finish off the under eye area. So I'm going to make sure I'm showing you the right eye here. I'm going to take one of these little flat definer brushes and going into that matte shade again. I don't really have much choice in what I use here. So I like to just run a little bit underneath to help prevent creasing, although I have to say, I don't think that pink color is like super flattering next to my eyes. Normally I use some of the Lumify eye drops to kind of make my eyes super white on camera. I didn't do that today, so I have a little bit more natural redness around that area, so I don't think that shade necessarily does me any favors. So maybe I'll try a little bit of this shade as well. It's a little bit darker. That might have helped. Still not maybe the most flattering tone. I have to say though, normally I like to apply some shadow underneath my lower lash line, in part to help prevent creasing, because I think a lot of the creasing kind of originates in that area. But either the eye gel or the under eye masks I think did help in terms of preventing creasing. I think my under eyes look pretty good. I did also use the Instant Angel cream as a kind of hydrating makeup prep step, which I've already misplaced. So this guy right here, so they do specify that it makes the perfect base under makeup. I like it. I have to say that I do prefer, I think, the Make Reverse Emulsion if my skin is like super dry and dehydrated. I used the Patrick Ta foundation today as well, and I found that if you prefer not to set your makeup, you probably want to go in with a lighter base with the Patrick Ta foundation. But if you do like to set, then I think the Make Reverse Emulsion and the Patrick Ta are a good pair. So everything I used will be listed and linked down below, but I just wanted to mention that as well. So for the Danessa Myricks side, I might start with that lighter matte and see if we need to deepen it up here. I did grab some micellar water on a cotton square to kind of clean up as much of the fallout as possible. There wasn't a ton, but still, just to get any sparkles. I'm going to go in with a little bit of that darker matte shade as well. Focus a little bit towards the back. So that is the difference there. Obviously, the tone of the matte shades in the two palettes is quite different. As much as I do admire the packaging of the Danessa Myricks, it is a little bit more cumbersome when it's all together like this and how the lid removes, so something worth mentioning. Okay, so let me quickly throw on some Clinique Bottom Lash Mascara. I did finally order a new one of these, so I'll be able to chuck this one soon. Okay, so the makeup is done. So final thoughts. So based on these swatches alone, I was expecting to have a more, I guess, negative review of the Pat McGrath palette. I'm just trying to wipe off all the fingerprints on it. I think though that it does serve a purpose. So let me try to unpack, I guess, what I'm feeling here. So I do overall prefer the mattes in the Danessa Myricks palette. You have more of them, so you have more options. They're more neutral. So that allows you to kind of go in a lot of different directions depending on what you want to do. So I prefer the mattes shade-wise in this palette. I think performance-wise, they're kind of the same to me. You really only get one matte in this palette, so you're kind of hamstrung by that. So I would recommend this palette to someone who is maybe happy to either just use those kind of mauve matte shades, or combine this palette with like an all matte palette, for example. So if you just want to reach for this palette to get some metallic shimmer shades and some kind of jewel tones to finish off a look, then I can see the case for this. It's obviously smaller, so it's going to fit into a makeup bag or drawer more easily, or it'll be easier to travel with. The formula is also more of a traditional shimmer metallic formula, so it's a little bit more, I guess, approachable in that way. So if you want to have a little bit of fun with your makeup, but you don't want to have a huge learning curve or deal with the fuss of all the different kind of working parts of the Danessa Myricks palette, then I can see kind of a use case for this and the kind of ideal customer. I think I was able to create a pretty look, and I do want to play with that shadow in particular. That kind of taupey shade is the one that calls to me the most in this palette. And then there is also the fact that this is about $50 cheaper than the Danessa Myricks palette retail. So, you know, you can save a bit of money that way and still have some fun with your eyeshadow for the holidays. So that's kind of who I think this palette is best for. The Danessa Myricks palette I think is best for someone who really likes to have fun with their eyeshadow or their makeup and experiment with different formulas and textures. You do have a bit of a learning curve with this palette, I think, so if you don't want to be bothered with that, then I think the Pat McGrath is the way to go. This does feel a little bit more like an all-in-one palette given the range of mattes that are included. So I think this is ideally for the more kind of adventurous, hardcore makeup lover. You're not afraid to spend a little bit more for some cutting edge formulas, and you'll be able to kind of take advantage of the number of shades and the number of formulas here. So I think I do stand by my thesis that the Danessa Myricks palette is kind of carrying the torch forward a little bit more in terms of ingenuity and formulas. So this is kind of the palette of the future. This one is a little bit more kind of a retrospective palette of the past, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad buy. It's just whatever will suit your preferences more. So I hope you guys found this review helpful. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. And until next time, I hope you guys are all doing well and staying safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.